Hello and welcome to the Dwarven Tavern. I am your host, Lyric, and today we are going to be doing a beginner's video. I haven't done one in a while, so I thought I would crank one out. But before we get to that, I want to throw you a little pitch. And this one is going to be about the Elderwood Academy. I have not been doing my best at mentioning them in our videos, so I thought I would go ahead and get that started. So, the Elderwood Academy is partnered with the Dwarven Tavern. They have a lot of really cool game stuff that you can add to your gaming experience. They've got a lot of accessories. As you can see, we've got like books and dice, die cases. Let me just delve into this one really quick just to show you. This is their handy dandy little die kits, and I love that. The magnetics are very strong. Unfortunately, these dice were really heavy and kind of threw caution to the wind and broke the metallic off of it. But if you have just regular plastic dice, these are magnificent for that. And then secondly, we have these, as I was showing. This is I'm not quite sure what they call it on their website. They've got all sorts of stuff on their website, so please check them out there. But this is kind of a bookkeeper's set for all of your dungeon crawling needs. It has a place for your dice, a place for your pens, and a place for knickknacks and coins and such. And then on the other side, it has a very reflective shield that you can doodle on with expo markers to keep track of all of the hit points and stuff. So that's really cool. Check them out at elderwoodacademy.com. And without further ado, let's get started on this review. Let's get started on this beginner's video. So first off, let's just talk about, what we're talking about. It is chronicling in game. What is chronicling? What are you talking about, Lyric? Well, when it comes to playing games like Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder or any RPG game, it's really easy to get caught up in the game itself. When you're playing for hours on end, days on end, months on end, sessions on end, keeping track of all the details make it a little harder to do. So that's where chronicling comes in. When you have a character doing all of this important stuff, you want to remember what that important stuff was. So let's define chronicling. Chronicling is just keeping a log of everything. It's charting down what has happened in game. It's charting down the reasons for your experience points. It's charting down monsters that you may have killed or encountered. It's just keeping track of all of the very important details. Maybe not to the detail that it actually happened, but maybe you want to keep track of why these characters got their experience points the way they did. So chronicling is just telling the story that happened chronologically. So that's that. The next part is why. Why would you want to chronicle? Well, everything that I just said. You want to be able to, look back on the characters that you have and see why they are the way they are. So this bushel of character sheets, oh my goodness, is Itimsala. I've mentioned her several times in previous videos. She is my half-elf bard cleric. Let me see if I have a doodle of her on the character sheets. I usually doodle on my character sheets to give me a representation of my character. So it's really tiny. It's right there. She's singing a song because she is a cleric bard, or a clard, as I like to call her. But this is Pathfinder. I'll give an example of 3.5 as well. We do not play 5th edition just yet. I'm actually in the works of putting together a 5th edition game, so I'll start representing the more modern style of gaming here shortly. But until then, this still technically applies because you're still doing stuff in 5th edition, so this can kind of just go on with pretty much any RPG. So, anyway, as I was saying, Tilsor has had like 3 or 4 different sessions, maybe upwards of half a dozen. So she She's part of what we call the vampire campaign because they are on the hunt of vampires. And those, not the sparkly kind, but the very classic eat your soul out with their front 2 teeth kind. So it's been a really long and drastic and dramatic campaign. And Itimsala, a very, very, what's the word? She's quick on her feet, but she's very naive. So I'll just leave it at that. But Itimsala she is currently level 3, and she's currently level 6. Level 3 cleric, level 3 bard, with the cumulative level of 6. So she's a 6th level character, and that means that she has had a lot of experience in order to level up. So, a lot of times you would just look at the character, and it has a part where it shows where to keep their experience points. Not quite sure where it is on this character sheet. I've only used this character sheet once, so I still don't have everything memorized. But there is a spot for experience points. If I could find it, I would show it to you, where they just keep the summary of the experience points that they have. I can't find it, so it's just, you'll just have to take my word for it on this character sheet. It's on other ones, and I'll show you that, but for now, so, that being said, you would just look at her character sheet and see that she has like 20,000 experience points. I know that's not 6th level, but I'm just go with it. So I don't like that because it's too vague. Like, I don't know how she got those experience points. Anybody can write a number down. So I started at a very early age chronicling the reason why my characters had the points that they had. For example, she started out with 50 experience points, seeing claw marks on inn. So the tavern that they had gone to, there were claw marks on the wall, and I pointed it out, thus 50 experience points. Then looked for trail in trees, because I was looking for a trail. That was 25 experience points. And then our gaming group, we have something called in-session experience points, and that we give those out. For example, the first session, we had the session experience points. We get session experience points because there's a lot of experience that happens in-game that aren't necessarily pinpointed. For example, like seeing the claw marks on the inn. So when we give out experience points, sometimes we don't give it out to the detail or the requirement that I'm not finding the word that I want to find. We don't give it out to the extension that we should. So we give session bonuses, and this one was 500 because we played for like 5 hours. Then role-playing bonus because I get super into character, that was 500. And then skill checks, we also give experience points if they succeed, because again, doing your skill successfully gets you experience points. So that being said, and then we had a ghoul ambush where we dealt with one of the vampire's spawns, and we dealt with it swiftly and murderously. So we got 1,700 for that. So I ended up with 3,058 experience points. That made me level up once, according to Pathfinder rules. So I have that all written out. That was my first level. That's how I got it. And then, as you can see, I have a lot of that information. I just read you this part right here. So that's a lot of information that you could be overlooking if you don't do this method. Needless to say, I'm a little more detailed than others. People might be a little more detailed than me. But for example, Tavern Josh, he doesn't necessarily go to this length. He doesn't calculate all of the math, the long division and stuff like that, but I do, because I like to see it all in crisp, clear detail. Like I'm saying, that's where I got those points. 50 for singing, 400 for ghoul experience, 400 for spells, because I sometimes cast spells that are successful. 405 for a skeleton we fought, 100 for 2 songs that I sang, and then, chainmail and stuff like that. Because I have magic chainmail that, gives me a bonus on my experience points. So, that is the rundown, basically, of how to keep track of your experience points via chronicling. I have another example that I'll just glance on real quickly. Here is Kellery Snarg, who has, who's 3.5. He's my NPC who became PC. Many different people have played him, so he's not just my character, he's kind of the Tavern's NPC to go to. So, that being said, all of his experience points are kind of all over the place, but starting out, he had, like in all 3.5 character sheets, they've got an experience bar, and that's usually where you keep track of the major numbers. You don't necessarily keep track of why you got them. So for Kellery, he got experience points for a gargoyle kill, he got experience points for RPG or role playing. He got experience points for joining a rebellion, rope idea, which I'm not quite sure what that is. So not necessarily. I didn't write that one down. That was my father because he was playing Kellery just then. Not all of the experience points detail that I leave in are detailed. So I just have a quick summary of everything. I got 100 experience points for being funny. So yeah, so like for all of your characters, you can give them this amount of detail and you can give them this amount of logging to keep track of why they are the way they are. So another bit of chronicling is something that I don't think I have with me. But there is something that I used to do. Yeah, it's not in here. But I digress. When I started playing, and we started playing the Saints campaign, which you've also heard us mention a few times. We were kind of spitballing and, no, not spitballing, but what's the word? We were snowballing. We started the campaign and it just kind of went just out of hands really quickly. We played one campaign for every single day for at least 4 hours. It was like 4 to 8 hours where we would sit down and just game with Taverniers, Jeff, and my siblings. So we would sit down and we would game this campaign for hours and hours on end. And we played this like 7 days a week, and we played that for 3 months straight. I mentioned that in my Burning Out video. So we played this game non-stop, and it was a great campaign. It was so fun. It's where Kellery came from. He's up here somewhere. Not Kellery, Akathan. I've got so many orcs, I'm losing track of them. Akathan is like my highest level character. He's the one with the most history. He's the one with the most character development. And that's because we played him non-stop for an entire summer. And it was called the Saints campaign because we were on a mission to not become gods, but well, I guess it was to become gods, but we weren't doing it for, well, I mean, I'm not going to get into it right now, but it's called the Saints campaign because we became saints along the journey. We had to fight, it was our Herculean battles that we had to fight. We had to fight the 10 most stereotypical monsters in Dungeons and Dragons that would be boss monsters. So we fought kobolds, we fought trolls, we fought vampires, mages, troll mages specifically, Hydra, we fought dragons, mind flayers, what is it called? The Beholder, and something else. But we fought 9 of them, and we're currently on our 10th Herculean battle. Which, if any of you know anything about Hercules, he didn't actually have 10. He had more like 12 or 13. And that's kind of what our DM is doing to us right now. So, there's that. But the entire campaign was so just fast-paced and fast-moving, and it was just kind of a whirlwind of action that within the third campaign, the third session, I started writing all the stuff down. And I meant write it down. I was very, very in-depth about how much detail went into the actions that our characters did. Actually, I have to show this to you because otherwise I won't be doing it justice by just explaining. So give me 1 second. Here it is. Because it took so much effort and work, I decided to keep it in a safe space, just so that it doesn't get all damaged and corroded like it kind of already is, just because it's been so many long years since we've played this game before. Here is actually Timsula's original character sheet. I don't know why that's in here. Put that over here. Oh, and here's a very old character that I had. I won't get into these guys because holy crap, they do not need to be in here. Anyway, getting back to the story, we had a very long and arduous adventure, and it took weeks upon weeks upon weeks, but those weeks upon weeks upon weeks resulted in this very messy yet very detailed chronology, and that includes where we first started. We all met in our dreams. We all come to the same town. We all meet. Tavernier Alyssa is lost. Ian is drinking. Lindsay is just playing. And I am traveling. So Kelsian, who's Alyssa's character, sees smoke and starts to trot toward the forest. And then the rest of us follow. And then so on and so forth. Let's get to a part where, unfortunately, a lot of the chronicling within the first couple days, I had to make up or ask, my siblings, like, how are we doing this? Because I wasn't chronicling for the first few days. But let's get to a part where I actually started chronicling. I even have recorded the fight moves where Bard misses again, they hit me unconscious. Kobold goes after Ian, he hits them, Lissa hits and kills, she moves forward again, hits and kills, Ian hits, I'm stable, not dead, so on and so forth. So there's that. So a lot of the chronicling that we did, and as you can see, it wasn't just me chronicling. It started off as me with my really sloppy handwriting, and then sometimes my siblings would pick up with their otherwise legible handwriting. And they would pick up for spots where I was either in the bathroom or my hand was cramping, or sometimes I wasn't there. And it even got to the point where as we were getting more and more into it and a lot of stuff happened, we started recording sessions, because it was a lot easier to keep track of everything that was said and done. There's a little paw print right there. That's why you keep it in a protective case. It's because you have animals, then they will do this. This is a dog, obviously. So there's that. But it got to the point where it became so detailed that we started recording these, and we had a few solo sessions for each of the individual saints because they had to go on their own mini journeys, and we recorded each of those because I, as the chronicler, was not part of the experience of their solo campaign. So we have all of that detail, and it's all stored away, all safe, all, it's preciously taken care of. And now comes the part of why. Why should you do this? Why keep a giant record of a story that's just going to be tucked away and saved for a special occasion that may never come? Why do that? Well, first off, I've already mentioned, it keeps track of why your characters are the way they are. It keeps track of, things that may cause argument later, like who killed what. It may cause, it may not, if you don't do it, it may cause confusion on why you have the experience points that you have. So those are all very simple, obvious reasons on why you should keep the Chronicle. But why keep this one So, why keep such a detailed log, a record of what your characters have done? And that is, my friends, my favorite part of this. This campaign, the Saints campaign, it's actually a part 3 to a generation to generation long story. We are just the conclusion to what happened with my parents. We are the 3rd generation of gaming. And I mean that for our characters, not for us. Me and my siblings are 2nd generation gamers, but our characters are 3rd. This is the 3rd era that we are going through. So the reason that I decided to keep a chronological order of things and stow it away until further reference was because the stories of the past characters that our characters met when they were in their very old age was my father, with his characters. He has actually already started to write a novel about the experiences of the game that they had. Now, he did not keep track of everything. Certainly nowhere near as detailed as I did. And when they played their games, they were a lot more lenient and lax about it, like, most gamers are. And they didn't keep track of all this stuff that had happened. They just remembered key points of the giant battles that they had, which is fine, and that's normal. You could even say what I do is weird. But he, after helping us start our story, wanted to write down his. And he's already well within the first novel of what happened with his generation. So when he gets to the 3rd novel, it will be about what I wrote down here. And so in reality, my chronicling, I don't know why I want to say chronological so bad. My chronicling has become the outline to a novel that will be written someday. And I've already started translating it from this really sloppy 15-year-old handwriting to the computer where everybody can read it. So, it's just a great way to keep track of your character's info and go back if you have problems or arguments that, come up years later about who killed who. But at the same time, it can become something really beautiful and wonderful, and something that will turn into storytelling and something that you can pass along to your children, because if you're anything like the Taverniers, you're going to pass the gaming along. So, I should know, I'm almost 26 years old. I've been playing for almost 26 years. So, and then my parents played since they were 15, a few, years and years before I was even born. So if you're going to pass along the information, you may as well write it down. And it's kind of becoming a family history of our made-up characters. And it's something that I will definitely be happy to pass along as well. I can't wait until the generation after us, where I start teaching the younglings of the Taverniers about the games and the characters in this. So it becomes something so much more than just a game. It becomes a history that you get to pass along. And if you want to take it as far as the Taverniers, where we're actually writing a book about those characters, then by all means, keep a log and keep track of everything that happens, because, if you take the game as seriously as we did in this particular campaign, we didn't goof off and try to seduce every other character. We didn't try to behead everybody we saw. We took this as a serious story, and that translated really well into a chronicle. That isn't to say that if you do all the seducing and you do all of the beheading and stuff, that you can't write a story about that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the way we did it was easy to translate, and it may be a little harder if you're the hack and slash type of gamer, which by all means, if you want to write a story, please do. I highly encourage that. I don't care if you are a hack and slash, if you're a wizard, if you're a rogue who likes seducing anything that breathes. By all means, I would love to read those stories. We actually do have something called the smoke rings, where we talk about books that we have read. I've already done one. I will put the link in that for that below. And honestly, I'm not the first person to think of this. I am so far from being the first person to think of this, considering my dad thought of it before I did. But if you want to translate your stories into, if you want to translate your games into stories, chronicling is an extremely easy way to do that. It might be a little tedious and boring, and it may feel like homework when you first start doing it, but it becomes second nature when you're in game. So much so that even though I don't write down everything for every game I ever play, I do chronicle all of their experience points, because once I started doing that, I realized I couldn't not know why they got those experience points. It's just a way to keep track of the character and make sure that I understood every part of them. So, that being said, highly recommend it if you want to. It can go a long way as to even write the stories that you want. So, what is the way to do the chronicling, you may ask? Obviously, you can write it down like I did when I was 16 years old, 15, 14, something like that. It's very old paper. Almost 10 years old. Good Lord, I am an old fart. So you can write it down like this on loose leaf paper, and it can become a catastrophe, because I can't tell you how many times the pages have gotten messed up, which is why on every single page I write the page number on both sides, just to, oh, look at this big action right here. Kills dragon. Boosh. That was a very, very historical moment in the tavern when we shot down that dragon with one shot. That, if you want to read about that, you're going to have to wait for the book, because that's going to be an epic chapter. So, you can write it down on paper. I would recommend a journal or a notebook like this, just to make sure that everything is all, kept tidy, and it's not, in need of a binder like this. You can write it down on your phone even. There's note sections in your phone that you can use. I don't recommend that one just because it's very tedious to do this. And it just makes a tedious job more tedious. So I wouldn't recommend that. You could do it on a tablet or an iPad or something like that. But I would recommend either the easiest and the fastest way, and the less complicated ways of doing this is record it via video or audio. Like if you're recording it like on your phone memos, that would be super easy to do. For some reason, like the phone memos, like voice memos on your phone, they record forever. So we've recorded our podcasts on a phone before, and they recorded over an hour worth of dialogue. So if you're just recording the parts where you're not having food breaks, or someone's trying to figure out the logic of something, then that would be super easy to keep track of. Do it on video, like I am doing right now. That'll help out a lot too. And then you can also just write it down on a computer. So if you have just a laptop at the, table is the word I'm looking for, then you can write it down as you're going and kind of become the word that I can't think of. So you just kind of become like the person who writes out everything in the courtroom, just to make sure that, you have everything written down to the best of your abilities. So that's just a few ways to do it. There are a lot of great reasons why you should do it. I'm not going to waste any more time talking about all of my cool characters, because I could talk about them for days. But I'd rather you just read the books that we are going to be putting out about them. So, that being said, I highly recommend that you get into chronicling stuff, even if it's just as simple as keeping track of your experience points, because a lot of the detail that goes into the character comes from the battles that they fight. So, that being said, I hope you take something with you from this very long ramble. I apologize it's so long, but I hope that you gain something from it. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask below. Pay 2 cents to the bartender in the comment section. And with that, I am Lyric with the Dwarven Tavern, wishing for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged, and I wrote it down afterwards. So, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.